the last 4 or 5 games, he's had a couple and ones and things where he's fallen to the ground and really being a shot maker down there and close. So, if I'm Florida State, I'm trying to confuse him as much as you can, because if he gets going, eventually some of the other guys are going to get going. It could be a long day for Florida State. If you're North Carolina, play your game. You're as I said, you're the best team here. At least you've been all year. Act like it, then play like it. The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan Tournament Tailgate will be continuing next as we take a brief detour to talk a little hockey. Canes, Florida Panthers tonight. All of the energy in this building for Capital One Arena for the ACC Tournament. It'll be ratcheted up and maybe exceeded by a bunch in PNC Arena for Canes Panthers. We'll talk that one coming up.
Woo! Yeah. already know why, right? Love that on that beat. Let's go. No masterpiece. Hey.
The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan Tournament Tailgate Edition. 10 to noon today from live right here in Capital One Arena, the site of the ACC Men's Basketball Tournament, leading you right up to ESPN's coverage of North Carolina, Florida State at noon. We're going to have a whole bunch of play-by-play for you today, leading right up to tonight when the Canes and the Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers will battle it out in PNC Arena. You can hear that right here on 99.9 The Fan. To mix all of our tournament tailgate, the Canes tonight, to mix everything together, when you're walking around the inner workings of Capital One Arena here, which is also the home of the Washington Capitals, you see quite a bit of Kuzi, you see quite a bit of Orlov, you see obviously being a part of their cup team and from, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it is now.
2018.
They have all the pictures of the team celebrating and the holding up the cup. And, you see a little Kuznetsov, a little younger version of him right there in the corner. You see Orlov smiling, which, hey, tough guy, doesn't smile that often. So the Canes are well represented on the walls here. As is, obviously, there's quite a bit of Ovechkin and surprisingly a lot of Kyle Kuzma from the Washington Wizards. The other kind of Kuz. We like the Kuz that we have with the Carolina Hurricanes as of last week.
Yeah, it's weird seeing it's Jordan Poole up here. I'm like, that's gonna change.
It's soon. Ovechkin, Kuzma, Ovechkin, some other Orlov, Ovechkin, and then boom,
it's TJ Oshie.
And then there's Poole, and then there's Tyus Jones.
That's right.
Little Tyus Jones action. But anyway, we're here in Capital One Arena, the site for the ACC Men's Basketball Tournament. But I do want to make sure we get you set for tonight's game, Canes-Panthers, because, we actually have postseason games taking place here in D.C. with us. The Canes-Panthers might not quite literally be a postseason game, but it's going to feel like a playoff game. It's going to have a playoff-like atmosphere. It's going to have playoff-like physicality. It's going to have playoff-like play and emotion and effort from the players, and you don't have to look any further than the last time these two teams played. It was a 1-0 game. The Canes were able to win, but it felt like a playoff game.
Oh yeah.
And the one thing that this one might have that the last one didn't, maybe we're not sure. I'll read you the latest update in a second. Might have a little Frederick Anderson. Which is an interesting little twist. The latest here from Walt Ruff, team reporter. The Canes are not holding a morning skate. They are not holding a morning skate before they play the Panthers. Since he's returned, the team has rotated between Frederick Anderson and Pyotr Kochetkov in net. Since Kochetkov played on Tuesday, it would not surprise Walt Ruff to see Fred Zilla, as he calls him, in net tonight. That's an interesting decision there. Because obviously there's Bobrovsky in the other net, so you're going to want to kind of fight fire with fire, right? You're going to want somebody that can go back and forth. And you just saw, again, because the Canes just line up all the good goalies in a row, with Igor and Pyotr going against each other. It was, I think, a pretty fair fight. And the temptation would be to go, all right, Pyotr, you just matched up with that pretty good one. You got you had some rest. It's not like it's a back-to-back. Why not see what you can do here? But you also don't want to mess with Freddie. If the rotation is your net, my net, your net, my net, you don't want to then turn to Freddie and go, well, actually, we're playing Bob, so we're going with Pyotr.
Well, we saw in that game against Florida, that 1-0 game you mentioned, Pyotr Kochetkov got the shutout with Bobrovsky in net for the Florida Panthers. So we've already kind of seen that a little bit. And we also saw Pyotr Kochetkov, honestly, outshine Igor Shesterkin just a couple days ago. But like you said, just keep that rotation going because you do have a back-to-back on Sunday. So you have a back-to-back that's coming Saturday, Sunday, I should say. So it would not shock me if you have Kochetkov going this Saturday, Freddie on Sunday with a couple extra days in between, and then you're Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, if I remember correctly, next week. So you got a ton of games coming up. If I remember correctly, the last 14 games for Carolina is over a 24-day span. Both these goalies are going to get plenty of work. Plenty of work.
And it's a luxury to have both of them.
Exactly.
The other interesting part is obviously this is the second game of the Jake Gensel era
Mm-hmm.
for the Carolina Hurricanes. He's got to be looking around going, so when are we going to play a goalie that is gettable, right? We're just going to keep lining up some of the best in the league for me to try to endear myself to a new fan base. This is what I have to do. And which is fair, right? Like you probably do want to go play, Calgary in your first game and get to pop the back of the net 2 or 3 times just to get everybody excited. But my counter to that would be, well, these are actually the games we brought you here for, Gensel. We don't need you against the teams that give up all the goals. We don't need you in the teams that are worst in goal prevention. We need you against the top goaltenders to do what you do, which is, be a sniper, find a goal for us, because, we're going to have our hands full with a bunch of other things.
There's something that I think is overlooked oftentimes when it comes to new acquisitions with teams. Obviously, we talk about the adjustment period on the ice.
Yep.
There's an adjustment off the ice because, again, you're moving to a new place, family's involved, you're trying to figure out where to live in and all those kinds of things. But also, as a new guy into a new locker room, those like Kuznetsov, Gensel, those guys know what they're brought in to do. Like the pressure sometimes you put on yourself, like, hey, they brought me in here to perform. Like I got to do something.
I'm the last piece. I have to complete the puzzle.
Like they brought me here to win a Stanley Cup. Like there is a little bit of pressure sometimes. I think if it's Kuznetsov and for Gensel, just getting that first point, whether it's an assist or a goal, just get that first point.
Yeah,
hey,
you don't care if it's off a skate. You don't. You don't care.
Pull a Stefan Nason and have it go off your face.
You want to go
like,
for the header.
That's totally fine. But whatever it is, those kinds of things sometimes get overlooked. Is the amount of pressure those guys put on themselves, knowing like, hey, this is a cup contending team, and I was brought in to be that final piece or one of those final pieces. Sometimes you can put a little pressure on yourself, even though you've done it before. It's still human nature.
And I'll again relate it back to what's going on here. Kevin Keats, speaking with the media yesterday, head coach NC State men's basketball, said that transfers take about a year before they get a voice in the locker room.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, transfers and trade acquisitions and the pros aren't the same, but for Gensel specifically, because Kuznetsov has had some other things going on, but for Gensel, like Gensel was a leader in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, he was a core dude.
I mean, it is and will be until probably a couple years, even after he leaves Sydney's locker room. But Gensel was right there in that, Knights of the Round Table. He may not have been Lancelot, but he had a seat at the table.
I mean, he was one of the longest tenured guys on that roster.
And now he's in Carolina, where he's kind of a hired hand. It's like it's like, no, you're not part of our core. You're not part of our leadership group. Your contract doesn't even extend beyond a couple months from now. You are here as a mercenary to score goals. And there is a little bit of freedom in that, right? You don't have to worry about hey, what's the temperature in the locker room? Hey, is everybody getting along? But there's also a little bit of pressure on, I'm not here for anything else other than to score goals. So if I'm not scoring goals, it is a massive detriment. And I would argue scoring goals is probably putting it too simply. Creating goals is probably the better way to put it. So, I don't care if you're drawing the attention that lets others get there or doing it yourself. But these are the games why you're here.
So the Canes did practice yesterday, for those wondering. They still had Kuznetsov with Natchez and Gensel. Like those, everything looked the same as it was just a couple of days ago. I'm expecting for that group, especially that trio, to be a little bit more tighter, a little bit more crisp. Because again, it's all about getting reps together. Like how many times did it take you as a quarterback throwing to a wide receiver, knowing okay, on this 10-yard in breaking route, I know he's going to be here. Like, how many reps did that take you? Like, it took you quite a bit. Exactly. Yeah. So you're not going to expect it for these guys just from one game. Oh, we got this.
The way I always describe that, because people love talking about quarterback receiver timing, and it is wildly important. I always go, you got to take it a step back, right? When a new quarterback shows up, you need the center to get used to the rhythm of your cadence.
Yeah.
You don't start with hey, on your 18-yard comeback, what's the let's make sure you're not chopping your feet too much because I'm popping it out there before the break. It's that's the graduate level stuff. The first is hey, are my hands on the center's rear end the right way? Because this is how I've done it my whole career, and he likes it somewhere else. You got to start it at the beginning. So it really is before Gensel and Kuzi are even saying hey, this is where I want to set up my one-timer. It's especially for the Canes. Let me make sure I'm getting back on defense in the way you guys like. Let me make sure I'm in the face-off circle the right way. Let me make sure I'm handling shifts and everything the right way. They got to start at the basics, and then the timing and everything. They're elite athletes and elite offensive producers. They'll get there, but there's a lot of other stuff you have to get used to as well.
They speak the language of hockey.
Yeah,
exactly. They speak the language of hockey. I mean, it's like I attribute it sometimes playing lacrosse. I've played in club tournaments where there's been like no one on those teams that I've ever played with. And then it's like a half into a game. It's like, oh, okay, you're looking to cut here. Okay, those kinds of things. You know how to communicate. It just takes reps and just going to take time. I expect it a lot tighter.
It is true. We talked about it earlier. Kevin Keats talking about transfers, gelling, getting chemistry together. State, most of the year, did not get the chemistry together. They had 7 new faces at the beginning of the year. Their rotation was inconsistent. They've won 2 games in 2 days here in the ACC tournament. They take on Duke tonight. Could it be a chemistry clicking moment for them? We're going to talk about that game. It is a massive game coming up next right here on the Fan Tournament Tailgate edition of The Drive with Tim Donnelly.
I know they mad at me. Hop in the coupe, then I slide like it's Vaseline. West Coast 6, poach on like
The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan. The Fan Tournament Tailgate. We are live from inside Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C., the site of the ACC Men's Basketball Tournament. We have the in-studio or in-stadium, in-arena feed, and North Carolina, Florida State, 53 minutes and 30 seconds is what the clock is saying. That's when that one's going to go live. I assume it's a couple minutes early.
Well, yeah, that's when they hit 0 for national anthem and lineups. That's really what it comes down to.
At right about noon, when the actual first tip goes up, we'll have that game for you right here on 99.9 The Fan, and we'll get you ready for it throughout the next hour or so. Actually, just quickly running through some of the games that are going to be taking place here. North Carolina, Florida State, as we mentioned, at noon. Pitt, Wake Forest, 2:30 p.m. That's a really, really fun game.
I'm pumped for that game.
We'll talk about that one in a little bit. Duke, NC State, which we were talking about before the break, or like 15, 20 minutes ago. That game, obviously massive for a bunch of different reasons and very noteworthy to our listening area. And then Virginia, Boston College, the late night game. Boston College is just like, we'll take the late games. That's just going to be us.
Yeah.
Boston College is all. They were the 7:00 game, which was the last game on Tuesday. They were the 9:30 game last night when they beat Clemson, and now they're going to be the 9:30 game against Virginia. There's like things get weird and late. We'll stay. We'll be Boston College.
I call those the fall asleep games.
Exactly.
It's like it's late. You're watching and I'm falling asleep. Boston College are perfect for that.
They also play a little boring brand of
let's
basketball.
be real.
All right, they're throwing it into the post again. Let's watch Quentin Post go dribble, shoulder, dribble, shoulder, dribble, shoulder, layup. All right, back on defense.
Boston College is built for the late night game.
So that's the schedule of things here in the ACC Men's Basketball Tournament. Let's focus in on that third game, that 7 p.m. game, Duke versus State. State is they are rapidly advancing their competition here at the ACC tournament. Yeah. Louisville, a team that had their coach fired pretty much immediately after the game. Mm-hmm. Syracuse, a team that was middle of the pack most of the year in the ACC.
But beat them twice.
True. Did get NC State twice during the regular season. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. They beat Syracuse. Now they go play Duke tonight. We've talked about it for State. A lot hinges on things that are in their control, sort of. The rotation. How do they choose to use DJ Horne? How do they choose to use Jaden Taylor? DJ Horne's health.
Yeah.
That's
a massive factor.
Is he available? And if he's available, is he effective?
He only played 20 minutes yesterday. Maximized at 16 points all in the second half, but again, only 20 minutes total.
If you watched, and we were there, I didn't break it down as specifically by minutes, but I would assume if you showed somebody the first 10 minutes he was on the floor, DJ Horne, and then you showed somebody else the second 10 minutes he was on the floor because he played 20 total, the person that watched the first 10 minutes is going to go, oh, he probably shouldn't play. Oh, he's not himself. And then the person that watched the second 20 is going to go, you're telling me that guy's hurt? The guy that got the fast break dunk, the guy that was knocking down jumpers, the guy that was leading the fast break, that guy, you're telling me he's not 100%? After the game, he did say he's about 80%. Matter of fact, let's hear some of the clips that were gathered by our very own Dennis Cox, who you just heard in the post-game presser for NC State, or in the post-game locker room for NC State. DJ Horne on if he was ready to go before the game. Here he is.
I wouldn't say I was 100%. They wrapped me up pretty good, got me some good meds and everything like that to try to relax my muscles and everything. But, I wouldn't say I'm 100%. But, with this being my last couple opportunities to play college basketball, I'm not going to miss that.
The Florida State Seminoles are walking by our little extended coat closet here in the bowels of the Capital One Arena. So it's just another emphasis that games are getting close to playing here on our fan tournament tailgate ACC men's basketball coverage. The other player that I think could be crucial to NC State's chances here, Casey Morsell. because somebody, I talk about this role a lot. And for Duke in this NC State Duke game, this role is Jeremy Roach. It might be the best example of this role in the country would be Jeremy Roach. But when things get chaotic, and the Syracuse and State game very much did a few times, and I actually think Syracuse at times wanted it to get chaotic, where you're pushing it up and down the floor, missed layup, run, guys sprawled out on the floor, rebound, block, foul. Like it got chaotic. You need somebody to grab the ball, and this is the image I always see. It's usually a senior, a veteran guard, grabs the ball, puts it under their arm almost like a football for a second, and takes his other hand, palm to the floor, and just tells everybody to calm down, relax, right? Like Peyton Manning telling the crowd to be quiet before a third down and he's on offense. Just palm down, like, hey, chill.
Settle it down.
That has to be Casey Morsell. Because Jaden Taylor, he's out there trying to keep his scoring touch rolling. DJ Horn, he's out there trying to make sure he stays healthy and effective. The big guys, they're going to have their hands full. Casey Morsell can be that voice. Here's Casey Morsell on the feeling after 2 straight wins in 2 straight days.
2 straight wins. How you guys feeling?
Focused.
Yeah.
Even though we're smiling and having a good time, we just focus on the next one. It's literally in 24 hours and less than 24 hours. So it's a quick turnaround. Just take care of our bodies, focus on recovering, and keep this thing going.
I love the ACC tournament so much. It is the closest thing you get to like an AAU youth basketball. We used to call it travel ball when I was to a travel ball tournament with elite athletes. Do you realize how aggressive the complaints would be if you asked an NBA team to play 5 games in 5 days?
Oh, man.
The amount of load management whining that you would get.
It's hard to get them to do back-to-backs.
Even the NCAA tournament, which in almost every way is perfect. You're playing 2 games with a day in between, and then you get a week off, and you got to do it again. It feels like it's every day because there are so many other games going on. Mm-hmm. Hearing Casey Morsell, after winning back-to-back games and back-to-back days, go, well, it's about the next one. We have less than 24 hours until, and he didn't say it, but until you play Duke, and they knew it at the time. That is the secret sauce of the ACC tournament. You have to be ready. You just had the biggest win of your season, right? You upset a higher-ranked Syracuse team to keep your season alive. You didn't even have a second before you had to start getting ready for Duke. And I do think years from now they'll be looking back on they'll be looking back on it, and they can look at that game with fond memories and, hey, remember the time. And but for right now, there's just no time to stew. It's 100%. You have to look towards Duke, and you have to look towards Kyle Filipowski, and you have to look towards Jared McCain, and you have to look towards finding a way to stop one of the best teams in the country.
I remember last time these two teams, the only time they played in the regular season, we talked about it the next day, how it seemed like NC State played right into Duke's hands in terms of like the tempo of the game. Like, hey, fine, you want to pound the rock down low into DJ Burns and slow the game down and make yourself one-dimensional? Fine. And you know what? Because they were hitting threes, and that's the big game that Sean Stewart had and all that stuff. I'm wondering what adjustments Kevin Keats is making from game 1 to game 2, but also what counter does John Shire have? Like, okay, we know this worked first time. What they might do this time, how do we now counter that even before the game starts? It's the game within the game.
And NC State, like, this is spin zone, right? I've complained all year about their rotation being inconsistent. Mm-hmm. But what that means is, as what you said, the game within the game, they have a bunch of different tools.
Yeah.
Right? They could play Ben Middlebrooks 25 minutes. They could play him 12. They could play DJ Burns 11 minutes. They could play him 28. Yeah. They could play Jaden Taylor 35 minutes. They could play him 14. They have a lot of different things that they're kind of within their arsenal. It's which ones do you choose? We know what Duke's going to do. Duke's going to send the 5 guys out that are their 5 main characters. It's going to be Filipowski. It's going to be Roach. It's going to be Proctor. It's going to be McCain. It's going to be Mitchell. It might be Stewart. It might be Young. It might be Power off the bench. And those would be in limited minutes with specific roles to be played. It's two different ways to go about it, right? Duke, you know exactly what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
That's could be their advantage because everybody's aware of their role and what they're being asked to do. Could also be their disadvantage because they don't have the wide array of tricks. State, same is the case, right? Their wide array of tricks could be their advantage where you never know if they're coming or going. Could also knock them off a rhythm and make it difficult for them to sustain momentum. We'll have to see 7:00 tonight.
Yeah,
which one it'll be.
By the way, you can listen to that game if you want to hear the state broadcast. It's going to be on Mix 101.5. If you want to hear the Duke broadcast over on Buzz Sports Radio, because we will have Canes hockey on the Fan tonight. So all the options for you.
If you are a Triangle ACC basketball fan, you're probably excited for either Carolina, Florida State, or Duke, NC State.
Mm-hmm.
If you are just a fan of basketball, I suggest you give this next game a watch as well because it's going to be wildly entertaining. Wake versus Pitt. We talk about it next. Good Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan. The Fan Tournament tailgate rolls on. We are getting closer and closer to basketball action here in D.C. in Capital One Arena. The site for the ACC Men's Basketball Tournament, North Carolina, Florida State, getting ready to tip off in less than an hour, about 45 minutes until that one is underway. And you can hear it right here on 99.9 The Fan. To follow that game, low-key, like, I'm trying to think of the way to describe this. It's not best bang for your buck because, like, it's, you know, you can buy the ticket to the morning session. But as far as like under promising, over delivering, if you have a game with North Carolina, UNC, they're the number one seed. You're expecting a certain level of like, hey, this is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
If you have Duke and NC State, like it's playing later on tonight, they're separated by however many miles. They're you know, again, Duke is one of the top teams in the country. State is a nice little Cinderella run. You're probably going like, yeah, that one's going to be exciting. Looking at Wake Forest against Pittsburgh, I don't know if it's low-key entertaining, but that game is going to be a blast.
Yeah, well, it's also low-key has high stakes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. Like, low-key, it's like, well, wait a second. Actually, the loser of this game might not make the NCAA tournament, but the winner is going to have a better shot of making it.
And yeah, exactly. I don't know if it'll punch a ticket, but it'll rip up a ticket.
Yeah.
And both of these two teams, for different reasons, are awesome stories. Pitt and what Jeff Capel is building up there, I think he should have been more in the running for ACC player or coach of the year, excuse me. But what he's building, making an NCAA tournament will go a long way towards helping that program move forward. Wake Forest, Steve Forbes has been through a lot. We were here earlier in the week when Wake Forest played their first game, and Steve Forbes and his family were given the Bob Bradley Courage and Spirit Award from the ACC due to them working and overcoming and dealing with his wife Jonetta's cancer, and she was out there on the floor. So A, bigger than basketball, happy to see her out there, happy to see the Forbes family doing well. B, that makes that story, you know, the Cinderella run to the NCAA tournament that much more exciting and fun to pay attention to. So both Wake and Pitt have the narrative thing going for them, but narratives only take you so far. At a certain point, you got to win the basketball games. And looking at this game, if Wake Forest plays like they played yesterday, I believe they'll win this game. That is the 17th time I've said that this year. And with varied results on the answer, right? Wake Forest, when they're playing well, they're very good. Pitt, however, is 100% good enough and have the good enough players led by Hinson, who's a sharpshooter, that if Wake Forest shows up messing around, if Wake Forest shows up dilly-dallying, Pitt has no problem winning that game by 15.
No.
They have no. If you show up like you did against Georgia Tech at home in the first half, now I know you battled your way back and ended up losing on a buzzer beater, but if you show up like bad Wake Forest has shown up for stretches this year, Pitt has no problem giving you the business and winning that game by double figures.
And here's one thing that Pitt has with Federico, with the Graham Diaz twins. They have the length and size to match up with Efton Reed and Andrew Carr. They have that.
Which not many teams do.
No, they don't.
Andrew Carr, by the way, got it done on the defensive end yesterday.
Yeah.
A couple of blocks. And you know, it's the most cliche thing in the world to be at a basketball event and say, like, you know, they're taller in person. And anyone that's there, it's like they don't look that big on television. And then you know, the hallway here to get to our little room. If we want to go to our seats, which are kind of on the other side of the arena, you have to walk down a long corridor, and that's where teams stretch. And there is an element of, like, as you know, I'm 6'4". I like to think, you know, normally I'm kind of a big guy. But when you walk by a ACC basketball team stretching, I'm just like, you know, shoulders slumped. Like, I'm just going through, excuse me, because they're giants.
Yeah.
Andrew Carr, though, you brought it up. Like, I do think he is one that even amongst like everyone that looks taller than they look on television, he's a bigger dude. He is, you know, if Efton Reed didn't exist, or if he was not eligible, because at the beginning of the year he wasn't, you could get by with Andrew Carr playing a lot of minutes at the 5.
Yeah.
But when Efton Reed and or Matt Marsh are out there with him, he can play the 4, which does traditionally create a lot of matchup problems. But you're right. A team like Pitt, they have the counter if they want to use it, right? If they don't want to go small to counter the big lineup, they have, more than 1 or 2 guys, 1.5 guys that can go out there and defend those bigs, which is a cool deal.
And speaking of like tall, long, rangy guys, the Florida State team is walking by us right now as we speak, and they're all like 6'8" to 7 feet tall with 7'4" wingspans.
Yeah,
it's all it's walking by us right now is a bunch of trees.
Yeah, do you know who I feel bad for? I feel bad for the end of the bench walk-on guys for Florida State, because if you're an end of the bench walk-on guy for Syracuse, you just make sure you walk in next to Judah Mintz, who's a star and is kind of your height, right?
Yeah, he's like 6'1".
Yeah. If you are a end of the bench walk-on guy for NC State, you walk in with DJ Horn and Jaden Taylor, you look like you're in the mix.
Yeah.
There's like a plateau of 6'7" to 6'10" for Florida State, and then the next guys walk in and they're 6'1" to 6'3", and it's just like, oh, come on, guys.
Yeah.
This isn't cool. It's all relative, right? It's all relative.
That's what Leonard Hamilton builds.
It's what he recruits. And, it's weird to say it like this, but it's true. He has a type.
Yeah.
He has a type. Going back to the Wake Pitt game, I'm so reluctant to do this. I want to praise Pitt. I'm reluctant to do it because I've quit them because they've burnt me so many times this year. But the Wake actually is the opposite. What I really like about Wake Forest is they don't have a type. Their 5 in the starting lineup are all so wildly different, but they fit together nicely, right? Like Hildreth, Miller, Salas, they don't overlap in skill set much, but they're all pretty solid in their own way. Boopy Miller is more of a slasher. He's trying to get to the free throw line. Salas can shoot. Hildreth has been the guy as of late that when healthy, and he's not really ever healthy, he takes on some of the personal challenge of guarding the opposing team's best perimeter player. And then Reed and Carr down low, they're again similar sized maybe, but do not play a similar game at all. So whatever matchup you're looking for, they have it, right? They're Baskin Robbins with 31 flavors. What do we need? We need shooting. All right, here's a scoop of shooting from Salas. What do we need? We need slashing. Here's a scoop of slashing from Miller. What do we need? Big shooting. We need big stretching the floor. Scoop of Andrew Carr. Like they have a little bit of everything. It's just a matter of making it come together in those games that matter. And tonight is one that matters.
Also, like we talked about earlier, Pitt hasn't played since Saturday. Pitt hasn't played since the weekend. Wake Forest got that game under their belt. They got that momentum. They got that rhythm of playing again. You just kind of carry that over from one day to the next. I don't know if that hurts or helps them. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't even matter at all. But nonetheless, Pitt's been sitting around waiting.
You bring up an interesting aspect, and it's like, does Pitt let being a top 4 seed go to their head?
I don't know.
Because Pitt has been closing this season on a little bit of a run.
Yeah.
Right? They've been playing with a chip on their shoulder. No one believes in us. No one believes. Now they're walking in like arm in arm with Duke, Carolina,
Virginia,
UVA. Yeah. They're just like, oh yeah, the Blue Bloods don't show up till Thursday, and that's where we're one of them, right?
Here we are.
Spot the difference. I don't know. Maybe they need to make sure they keep the chip on their shoulder that has led to their best play.
They have to win.
As do Wake.
As do Wake. That's what makes this game, to me, this is the matchup I wanted to have happen.
Do you know what's actually cool about this year's ACC tournament is there have been years of my lifetime where you knew the ACC was getting like 9 teams in the tournament.
Oh yeah.
And 10 teams in the tournament. This year, if you're not Duke or Carolina, you're playing for your tournament life. You have to go out there and put up, the stakes are high. There were games like, as long as we make it to Wednesday, we'll make it to the NCAA tournament.
If you were 21 wins in the regular season and you had 10 wins in the ACC, you're a 7 seed.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you were Syracuse, then you're on the bubble.
Yeah.
But it's every game is stakes. I'm looking at this one. Florida State needs to beat North Carolina to get in. Wake Forest and Pitt both need to win to get in. NC State needs to beat Duke to get in. Boston College and Virginia still, I mean, obviously Boston College, but Virginia needs to win one, if not two more to get in. And so there's a lot of stakes in this ACC tournament that previous ACC tournaments didn't really have. The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan. We've been here watching basketball for a while now. We're going to watch more basketball today, but we're going to give out kind of our midway play-in round, the Tuesday, Wednesday awards.
Mid-tournament awards.
Mid-tournament awards for the ACC tournament coming up next. The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan. We are live here in Washington, D.C. at the ACC Men's Basketball Tournament, Capital One Arena. Tim Donnelly, Dennis Cox here as well. We thought it'd be fun, right? The ACC Tournament, for some traditionalists, kind of starts today, right? The ACC Tournament is an 8-team tournament. There's no buys. You got to win 3 games in 3 days. And it starts on Thursday. So with that being, if you believe that, it's fairly easy to go ahead and look at the previous 2 days as play-in tournaments, right?
Yeah.
There's
the play-in tournament.
I don't know if people watch AVP volleyball, but they do play-in tournaments where they have reserved 2 spots in the main draw for teams that go through this rigorous like 30-team tournament from the play-in tournament. Golfers, if you follow the PGA Tour, there's often a Monday qualifier where you can go show up in town, play on Monday, and they take the top, 4 or 5 guys into the main draw. So maybe that's what they did. They had some teams show up on Tuesday and Wednesday to play a little tournament to get into the ACC tournament that starts on Thursday. With that being said, we're now just believing everything I just said. We're assuming that that's all how it breaks down. Let's look at the play-in round award winners. The Tuesday and Wednesday award winners. We have team of the tourney, coach of the tourney, player of the tourney, most disappointing thing of the tourney.
Yep.
And worst prediction of the tourney.
Yes.
We'll those last 2 we'll get to. But first, let's start with team of the tourney. I was surprised. I'm going Boston College.
Yeah.
Boston College came in as the 11th seed.
Mm-hmm.
They're still playing. That alone right there. They'd win 2 games. And Miami is a team that, they ended the season on, a 10-game losing streak. So they weren't exactly scaring anybody, but they still had some dudes, right?
Yeah.
They were in the Final Four not that long ago. And granted, a lot of those players aren't around anymore, but Jim Larinaga knows how to coach in the tournament. He knows how to coach postseason basketball. Boston College didn't exactly scare a ton of people. They've been really good in their 2 games.
They blew out Miami, like you said, and they blew out Clemson. That's the best win so far. The tournament. The win over Clemson is the best win so far. The 11 seed over the 5.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. 11 seed over the 6.
Or 6, my apologies. But still, best win so far. It was easy to pick. We were leaning on State possibly as well, but we looked at man, Boston College, 2 blowout wins.
And also, I think expectations were much lower for Boston College. Even though they and State were only divided by 1 seed, I do think there's still a belief that there's a little bit more talent on the NC State roster, and Boston College was seen as maybe a little bit less. So Boston College, team of the play-in tournament. Would not have expected that, did not pick that. Coach of the play-in tournament, I think this one is more obvious. I think this goes to Kevin Keatts.
Yeah.
What he's been able to do, A, winning the first round without DJ Horn, B, how he used DJ Horn in the second round. That's not something they teach you in coaching college.
No.
Right? Like, hey, this player is hurt. How is it best to disperse the 20 minutes you have with him? Hey, he's playing a little tentative. Do you keep rolling him out there or do you pull him back? He left him out there and he paid it off. The DJ Burns in round 1 playing 11 minutes, scoring 12 points, having the discipline as a coach to not go, all right, DJ Burns, we're playing you 30 minutes because you're scoring well, knowing it's a long tournament, right? And marathon, not a sprint. You have to play DJ Burns almost as little as you possibly can and still win games to make him as effective the next day because he's a big boy. And he's going to have to be able to get you those need-to-have buckets throughout the tournament. There were a lot of coaching decisions that Kevin Keatts made. And by the way, we've been as critical of anyone of Kevin Keatts this season for his rotation, for some of the inconsistencies we've seen. I think he's played it really gosh darn well through 2 games thus far in the ACC tournament.
Let's give credit where it's due.
And maybe it's one of those things where it's the long play, right?
Yeah.
All year, wildly inconsistent with the minutes because I knew I was going to be moving and shaking in the ACC tournament. I knew no game in the ACC tournament would need the same rotation, so I was trying to get the players as ready as possible for not knowing their role on a day-to-day, game-to-game basis. It is maybe it's chess instead of checkers.
Maybe.
I still think it was checkers, but I'm open to be changed if they beat Duke today.
Hey, nothing wrong with checkers. Keep moving forward. That's it. The whole purpose of the game. Keep moving forward.
Player of the tourney thus far. We go back to NC State.
Yeah.
Jaden Taylor.
It's been great.
18 points in both games, 18 apiece.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting not a low percentage. It's not like, oh, DJ Horn's out, I'm going to take 30 shots to get 18 points. Shot 50% in the game DJ Horn didn't play. 8 rebounds, 9 rebounds. 8 rebounds against Louisville, 9 against Syracuse, which helps a ton, especially when you're playing. If you're going to play DJ Horn minutes, or sorry, DJ Burns, I got to get my DJ straight. Go DJ. If you're going to play DJ Burns minutes, you need your perimeter guys to rebound because he's just not an elite volume rebounder as a big guy. Diarra is, but if Burns is out there, you're going to need your perimeter guys to rebound, and that's where Jaden Taylor has come in. Let's give Jaden Taylor the credit.
Yeah.
Judah Mintz played, PJ Hall played, Quentin Post played, DJ Horn played. You're looking around. Burton from Notre Dame, the rookie, the freshman of the year, played. There have been a ton of all ACC picks that have played in the first 2 days. I think Jaden Taylor's been the most effective one.
Well, he's been the most consistent. Because Quentin Post in game 1 for Boston College, he dropped 30. But yesterday, foul trouble was only like 11 or 12 points. So overall, total points, yeah, Quentin Post has more. But again, the consistency from game 1 to game 2 was Jaden Taylor. I remember yesterday was in the second half. There's a loose ball rebound. It like deflects off of DJ Burns' hands, and it goes right to Jaden Taylor in front of NC State's bench, and he knocks down a massive 3, part of that big-time run for NC State yesterday. Yeah, Jaden Taylor's been consistent. He's been awesome.
Most disappointing.
Oh, this is easy.
Clemson.
Gosh.
One and done. Showed up on Wednesday, home by Thursday. They were the 6th seed. They were a team with stakes. It may have only taken a win over Boston College for them to punch their NCAA tournament ticket. I think they are firmly, squarely, both feet, 10 toes down on the NCAA tournament bubble now. And I would have a hard time chastising a committee member who argues against them getting in after watching them, especially that second half against Boston College.
And the thing that is most disappointing about that, you look back to last year, they were the 3rd seed in the ACC tournament, beat NC State 3 times, but still didn't make the NCAA tournament. I thought, this is the reason why I was disappointed. I know we're going to get to worst pick here in a second. I'm going to tease this. That's the reason why I thought, like, you know what? We can't take any of this for granted. I don't care if we're playing Boston College or whomever or Miami. Doesn't matter. You have to go out here and win. And they laid an egg. Yesterday. Like, super disappointing for Clemson.
You can hear the bitterness in Dennis's voice. That brings us to,
it made me look bad.
Brings us to worst prediction, our final play-in round award. Dennis picked Clemson to be in the ACC championship.
I did, for those reasons I just mentioned. I was like, you know what? They're going to come out here. They're going to stick it to Boston College or whomever. And they're going to go play Virginia. They're playing so terrible. Virginia might even – I thought they were going to, like, maybe even beat Virginia today because Virginia hasn't played in a while, and they've looked terrible of late. And you know what? You could trip up Duke. You know, or Duke gets upset by State. You can win that game. I was like, you know what? Clemson, they could win just win 3 or even just win 2. I thought, you know what? I'm going to get bold here. I'm going to get weird with it. And no, it let me down. Never.
Do you know what?
Never Clemson ever again.
Do you know what's the best part? In my picks, when we picked our Final Four, I also had Clemson in my Final Four.
Yeah.
So my pick wasn't good. Yours was just
worse.
So you end up with the award. Congratulations.
Thanks. Thank you, Clemson.
We have a full day of basketball and hockey coming up here on 99.9 The Fan. North Carolina, Florida State in just about 19 minutes will be coming on your airwaves. We're going to set you up for that game coming up next right here on The Drive with Tim Donnelly, the Fan Tournament Tailgate from live in D.C. Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan. 15 minutes from turning things over to the North Carolina-Florida State broadcast. The first game of the third day, the middle day, the most active day, one of the most active days of the ACC men's basketball tournament. The Florida State Seminoles, their locker room happens to be, we are situated right between their locker room and the floor here at Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. They seemed energized, just running by our door, as anyone that plays in the ACC tournament probably does about 15 minutes before their game, as they run out to the court to go chase a dream. They're taking on North Carolina. That, if we're being completely honest, there is a world where Florida State runs out very, very excited, and about 20 minutes from now, they're metaphorically going, what the heck just happened? We just got punched in the face, again, metaphorically. But you know, crazier things have happened. North Carolina has lost bad games in the ACC this year. And that right there should be their motivation.
They even struggled to beat Florida State earlier this season
in Tallahassee, which is always interesting. There are certain teams that just match up well with you, and Carolina and Florida State might be one of them. It's Florida State is I don't know how many different ways we can say this. Florida State is what Florida State is. They are going to be pests on defense. They're going to be lanky, and they're going to try to run. North Carolina this year is trying to be something that they weren't last year, which is a team that shows up in these moments, right? North Carolina a season ago didn't even make the NCAA tournament, which for certain franchises, like, oh, it's a bummer of a year. For North Carolina, it's pretty darn catastrophic to not make an NCAA tournament.
That's almost like that's the minimum, right?
I mean, it's
the
like
bare minimum.
Going out in the first round is a bad year for North Carolina.
Yeah.
Let alone not even having the opportunity to go out in the first round. So they're looking at this season, I have to imagine, with a little bit more of perspective, right? Because, you know, if you go back the previous year, a lot of stuff went pretty darn well for North Carolina, all the way up until whatever it was, halftime of the national championship game. But they ruined Coach Kazel, farewell tour. They knocked out Duke in the Final Four. A lot of things were going well. Last year, a lot of that fell apart. They're trying to prove they're more 2 years ago than last year. And it starts today. Let's get to some predictions. I think, actually, I don't want to speak for you. I think we're both going to end up on North Carolina.
Yes. Well, okay. I mean, I had them picked to win the whole thing.
Well, you could, I'll give you one-time shake-up since you had Clemson in the ACC championship if you want to.
Getting the claps and let's goes as Florida State walks by.
The guaranteed let's goes. But let's dive into the predictions a little bit more specifically. Who do you think for North Carolina is going to be, if we had to name an MVP, of this game?
Ooh, this game specifically, had to pick one player right off the top of my head. Give me Baycott.
Why? Because
how do you combat size with size? Who's your big guy? It's Baycott. He's going to have to be the guy that's going to have to out-rebound a lot of these other tall guys for Florida State. But again, I think it's also going to be offensive rebounding putbacks. To me, I think it's got to be Baycott.
Again, we're going pretty chalk here. I think I'd lean RJ Davis. And I think
ACC Player of the Year.
Yeah, pretty chalky over on this side of the table. I had Duke and UNC in the championship for my ACC predictions as well. I'm just right down the middle, right? No surprises on my side. But the reason for RJ Davis is because I don't think he will allow it to be anybody else. We've seen this happen a few times where he's going to get his 20. Right? If it takes 18, 19, 20, 25 shots, he's going to get his 20. And I think he's going to come into this one exactly thinking what you just said, right? I'm the ACC Player of the Year. Part of it is I want to go prove it. Part of it is I want to go show everybody why I'm the ACC Player of the Year. Part of it is I'm the ACC Player of the Year. My team depends on me to do certain things. And one of those is shoot the lights out. One of those is be a volume scorer. One of those is get shots on rims so guys like Baycott can rebound and put them back in. So I think RJ Davis as the ACC Player of the Year is going to take it upon himself to, get them in rhythm as early in this tournament as they possibly can. The most concerning thing I think I'd see, or actually I don't want to say that. I think the most important handful of minutes of this game are the 4 minutes after halftime.
Okay.
Because if Florida State jumps out to a lead, it's almost understandable because UNC hasn't been playing and Florida State played last night, and it takes a minute.
Momentum, yeah.
It takes a minute. However, if by 4 minutes, if by after halftime, North Carolina isn't establishing themselves as the dominant team in this matchup, that's when I would start to look around and go, oh, this might be something. So Hubert Davis, good halftime speech, right? And break out the A game, go into the top shelf of the speeches.
Oh yeah.
If you do have that slow start. Now, the other side of this is North Carolina is just the better team. And they might show up and not need to get the warm up, right? They might be able to just say, hey, Harrison Ingram, like, go be a phenomenal athlete. Hey, Baycott, we're going to toss it to you in the post and use our high percentage shots to get us into a rhythm, and then build off from there. There's always a possibility that UNC just runs away with this one.
Always a chance.
Should we bring it up one more time?
Why not?
They did beat Duke in the final game of the regular season. And the last time they beat Duke, they did struggle in their very next game.
Yeah.
So if there is a Duke hangover, if there is a Duke aftermath, this would be the game where it would show.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe escaping with a win could be the win for North Carolina.
Maybe that's what they need. Just get out, get past that.
Get the
Use
lactic
the ACC
acid
tournament
out.
to get it all out of your system right now.
The fact of the matter is I just think they're good.
Yeah.
I mean,
honestly, when things are clicking right for that team, there's no reason why they can't go to a Final Four.
I think they win.
Simple as that. There's no reason why they can't go to a Final Four.
I think they win tonight. This we got a lot of basketball left to be played. I think they win this game that starts in 8 minutes with their A or their B game.
Mm-hmm.
If they give their C, I think it'll be close. Anything less than that, Florida State's got the upper hand on them. I think they win with their A or their B game. Coming up today on 99.9 The Fan, North Carolina, Florida State, as we mentioned, and